Hello, my name is Sarah Vincent. I'm the Interim Director of the Racial Economic Justice Program at Legal Aid at Work, and we have partnered with Law for Learners to give a brief, high-level overview of fair chance laws. Now, this presentation is for your information only. It's not meant to be any sort of specific legal advice. As you'll see in just a bit, these laws vary by state and by city, and so the goal of this presentation is just to give a very brief, broad overview of the laws that exist and that are continuing to develop and expand across the country so that you will know what's out there when you're looking at reentry, when you're looking at jobs and reentering the workforce. These laws are really important because they impact real people who are experiencing real barriers to reentry to the workforce. There are fair chance acts that deal with housing, that deal with banking and other areas of life, but today we're just going to talk about the barriers that fair chance acts try to overcome as it relates to employment. Unfortunately, an individual's conviction history doesn't always end at release. In an ideal world, that would be the case. You'd be released and just re-enter seamlessly into society. However, it has the potential to follow you into every job application. Thankfully, though, there are fair chance laws in place in many states, many cities across the country. And a fair chance law, kind of broadly, is designed to ensure that when you apply for a job and you have a record, that you're not evaluated solely based on that record or based on that record at all, but that an employer is looking at you based on your skills, based on your experience, whether that's in or out of a prison setting. They're looking at your qualifications, certifications, education, everything about what would make you a good employee. They're looking at that instead of automatically discarding your application or refusing to hire you because of a criminal record. And so the law is designed to kind of slow down the process of an employer can't just throw your application out because you checked yes that you have a conviction. And so under these laws, employers are prohibited from asking about or considering a conviction record until later in the hiring process. This is usually after a conditional job offer has been made. So you may have heard this as kind of a ban the box law. It's very similar to a Fair Chance Act. And the reason behind this is we want an employer to have full access to learning about you through your application and not just seeing that you checked yes to a felony or a misdemeanor. We want to give you the opportunity to shine in an interview, to talk about why you want this job, about the family that you're providing for, about the education you got, about the work experience you have. We want to give you that opportunity to share that with an employer because that's truly what they should be considering and what matters to the job itself, not just this printed out piece of paper that shows a criminal record. And the goal behind all of this is to give people a fair shot at employment based on their skills, not just their records. As of now, 37 states have some form of a fair chance law on the books. Over 150 cities also have fair chance laws or ban the box laws. So, for example, California has the state fair chance law. Other cities within California, like Los Angeles, also has its own fair chance law that creates extra protections to individuals who are applying for jobs in Los Angeles. And so we're seeing these numbers continue to increase. Other states have fair chance laws on the books that they're voting on or that they're still developing, same with cities. And so we're really seeing an increase in fair chance laws being something that legislators are pushing, that community organizations are pushing, that coalitions are pushing, because as we'll see in just a minute, the data shows that by giving individuals a fair shot at employment, employers, communities, families, everyone benefits. And so it's really important that we're not letting any sort of prejudice that comes with a criminal record impact the ability for significant community impact, but also reentry. So how can these laws help me? Well, not having to disclose a criminal record at the outset on a job application or in an interview gives you gives you a better shot at a job offer because you're not being screened out based on your application alone or your answer in an interview question. It gives you the chance to kind of build rapport with an employer to show them who you are and why you're a great fit for this job. Many fair chance laws require employers to do an individual assessment, and more broadly, the federal government has indicated that if an employer is going to use a criminal background in making an employment decision, they need to consider the nature of the offense, the time that has passed, and the nature of the job. And this is really important because if there's no connection between the nature of the conviction and the nature of the job, the employer really doesn't need to consider it because it has no bearing on some of these fears around workplace safety. But it forces an employer to kind of slow down and show their work and say, why are we worried about this conviction? And is it rooted in something that is supported by data, or is it just something that we worry about because we've been conditioned to kind of worry about these things? And so being able to show that there's no connection between the conviction and the job gives an individual a better shot at a job offer. Lastly, for laws in states that have procedural requirements, and what I mean by that is if an employer is going to use your background check to not offer you a job, they have to give you notice and they have to give you an opportunity to respond. And when you're given that opportunity, 5 business days or a couple of weeks or whatever it is, that's your chance to run in and say, let me tell you about who I am. Let me give you letters of recommendation. Let me tell you about how I've changed since this conviction. Let me tell you about my job experience. And I don't just mean job experience since release. I mean any job experience. You worked while you were incarcerated? Did you do food service? Did you do landscaping? Like whatever work experience you can point to, that all matters and that all should be included when you're explaining why this conviction should not make or break this job offer for you. And so by giving you notice, basically the employer is telling you, tell me why we should still move forward with your application. And that's your chance to really put the evidence forward and to advocate for yourself. So why do these laws matter? And this is the part I love telling employers. The single biggest factor in whether someone goes back to prison in the first year post-release is whether they get a job. And so data shows that employment reduces recidivism by up to 50%. So we can look at all the things that might help or hurt someone when it comes to returning to prison in that first year post-release. Getting a job is the best thing that can happen to them. And so fair chance laws increase the likelihood that an individual with a record can get a job, can support themselves, can support their family, can get housing, can get medical care, all of these things that are so connected, but they revolve around having a job. We also know that people of color are disproportionately impacted by background checks, and that's in part because of conviction records and other considerations in the criminal justice system. Fair chance laws help level this playing field. And again, this is rooted in data about the impact of the criminal justice system and fair chance laws. Lastly, employers who practice fair chance hiring, whether they have to under the law or whether they're just choosing to because they know it's a smart business decision, report great performance from the individuals with records, loyalty, and retention. And evidence, data points that we've been able to collect over the years of tracking fair chance hiring shows that fair chance applicants perform just as well, if not better than other hires. In fact, fair chance hires typically get promoted at faster rates and they stick around for longer. So the things that employers want in an employee, that sense of loyalty, strong performance, promotion, that is coming through so strongly in fair chance hiring research. And so that is really encouraging. So we still have some work to do because not all states have fair chance protections. In an ideal world, there may even be a national fair chance protection one day. But for now, for the states that do have these protections, the laws have to be enforced. So if the laws exist, but no one knows about them, then it doesn't really matter, right? Because you have to know about your rights to know when your rights are being taken advantage of. And so wherever you are, it's important to know what are your rights in this specific state or county or city. And then if you feel like an employer has violated your rights, you need to report that. And that's usually through a local or state agency. And so when these laws are enforced, employers take notice and they make changes and they adjust and they become more inclusive, they become more thoughtful about their practices. And so it's really important to learn your rights and then to feel comfortable with advocating for your rights if and when they are violated. There are great organizations out there that have lots of resources. Everything from here is a template letter to write to your employer about why they shouldn't consider your background to here's a sample letter of recommendation, send it to someone to write you a letter. These are listed here, but at the end of the day, there are tools out there so that this process, while it might feel overwhelming figuring out what's my specific law, how do I navigate this, there are resources out there. And so I encourage you to look at them. These are free resources. They're connected with organizations that do free legal work as well. So I know that was quick. That was a brief overview of everything. I hope this was a helpful conversation, and I hope that as you look towards reentry and reintegration, that you see these laws as kind of an extra support as you move back into employment and into life in your community. Thank you.